Conversations, episode Frank Thomas, a fitting reference for this week's episode because it appears that there is some big hurt out there that KBEX has been noticeably absent, both from the podcast as well as from a more personal standpoint over the last couple of weeks. Well, while I appreciate the concern and you guys thinking of me every day, I can tell you I am alive, I am well, and I am excited to spend the next half hour or so talking about everything that's gone on here in sports over the last couple of days and weeks. There is a lot out there, and I mentioned the next 30 minutes or so, mostly because number one, I don't know how many minutes these episodes are going to last, but I am anticipating this one is going to be a little bit shorter than the last several episodes, which have been solo KBEX podcasts. For those of you that have been with us before, let me know what you think of this length of episode, assuming that it is around that half hour mark. Do you like the shorter episodes, or do you appreciate the longer form that maybe gives you an opportunity to listen to something throughout your train ride to work? Shout out to our Bostonian listeners out there. I know you guys are doing that, and I appreciate your support. For those of you that have not been with us before, welcome in. Hopefully you'll be back in the future. And if you are so inclined, any support that you can give us on the socials with follows, likes, subscribes is appreciated, and it helps us get out to other listeners as well. We're on all the major social media platforms: Facebook, X at KBEX_ATC, Instagram at cornversationspod. And if you want to get involved in the podcast moving forward, we've got a mailbag as well that you can send questions and comments to. That's cornversationspod@gmail.com. You can also send comments on any of the socials platforms or wherever you listen: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, etc. Likes and ratings on those platforms very much appreciated as well, especially if you're a listener on Apple Podcasts, as their algorithm really helps when you have activity there. So enough of the promotion for now. We've got a big episode coming up. A lot of things going on. World Cup. We're going to hit on baseball for a moment, and then we will hit a mailbag question. First mailbag question in a while, and that'll take us to basketball briefly as we wrap up the episode. But we are recording here just after the second semifinal game of the 2026 FIFA World Cup. So 102 games down, 2 to go, as John Strong would say. And it's going to be a very good one on Sunday afternoon when the best in Europe take on the best in South America, and also consequently the defending champions of the FIFA World Cup. Argentina took down England in the most harrowing way possible if you are an England supporter. But in the end, it did look like the better team ended up getting the best of this match. Now, England got out to a 1-0 lead, and it did look like there was a possibility that after much conversation about what was happening with the team and some of the decisions that have been made by Thomas Tuchel throughout the tournament, that it could possibly be coming home. They did look like a team that had the ability to close things out, but unfortunately, what England failed to do is something that every other team in the knockout stage so far has failed to do, despite giving Argentina a lot of trouble throughout. And that's that you have to kill the champions. You cannot let them hang around. And that's what England did. And it ended up coming back to bite them in stoppage time. Yet another opportunity for Argentina to take a lead after 90 minutes have been up. A crazy stat that I saw before kicking off this episode is that in the knockout rounds, which there have been now 4 games for Argentina, they have not led during the regular 90 minutes of play. And yet they have made it all the way to the final. That is something that is to be commended, whether you believe that Argentina has gotten help from VAR, from referees, from the Messi effect or not. The fact of the matter is they are the Rasputin of this World Cup, and they are incredibly difficult to dispatch of. And if you leave an opportunity, they have the confidence to take those windows and deliver on them. And it's just something that we've seen over and over again throughout this tournament with them, going back to even the round of 32 against Cape Verde. They have given opportunities for opponents to score, but when opponents do not take the opportunity to shut them down and to continue to provide pressure on their back line, they get bold and they start pushing themselves, and it's worked out for them quite well. And we'll see how it works out for them against Spain, who has taken a very different approach to the final. They've been quiet for the most part, but very, very strong defensively. And the thing that Spain does that maybe some of these other teams against Argentina have not done quite as well as perhaps Spain can do is Spain takes control of the game. They do it quietly. They don't do it in a flashy manner like France tried to do throughout the tournament. It did look for most of the tournament like France was the team to beat, but then Spain came out and they put a chokehold on that game. They deserve to win that game. They showed why they are the best team in Europe right now, the defending European champions, and one of the best teams in the world. And if you are a neutral participant and watching this game on Sunday, you really can't ask for much more. This is a game that is going to go down as one of the most anticipated finals in World Cup history because of where these teams stand as far as the rankings are concerned, the world rankings. It also comes on the heels of perhaps, well, not even perhaps, I'm just going to go out and say it, the best World Cup final that has ever occurred, at least in my lifetime, the 2022 final. So there's a lot to live up to for this game, given the two teams that are playing and the personalities that will be on the pitch. But I think that it has every opportunity to do so. However, a word of caution to those who would be expecting electric back and forth the same way that we saw in the 2022 final. Given how Spain has played this tournament and given what Argentina has opted to do for the majority of regulation time during these knockout matches, don't be surprised if this game is low scoring, if this game appears to be one in which teams are trying to position themselves for what they want to do late in the match. I would be very surprised if we saw as many goals as we did in 2022, but I would not be surprised at all if the technical capability on the pitch is better than what we saw in 2022, which is a hard thing to do given the two teams that played just 4 years ago in Qatar. I do want to focus on something, though, outside of the final, because there's going to be plenty of commentary leading up to that. And that is something that I have heard being thrown around in the past week or so regarding how MLS should look to capitalize on the World Cup being on American soil this summer. And there's varying opinions on this. I think that my opinion may sound lazy to some and novel to others. But when I think about the MLS and what they provide to the global soccer ecosphere and what they would provide to maybe a fan that has gotten into soccer this summer but really wasn't paying too much attention to it prior, I would say that the MLS really doesn't have to do anything to capitalize on the World Cup because it's not the opportunity for the MLS to do so. So let me explain this a little bit. I do think that the World Cup has provided an opportunity to bring new fans to the game. That much I'm not going to dispute at all. And I think that you are going to see growth of the game in the United States as a result of this World Cup. But I don't think that you're going to see a lot of that coming from what the MLS is able to do. Let's be honest about the facts here. The MLS is not the top soccer league in the world. American sports fans typically do not have the palate for a league in any sport that isn't the top league in the world. And so right there, you have a difficulty if you're the MLS really selling the casual fan to come in and watch your particular product. Outside of Messi, who is probably not going to play for about a month or maybe longer after this World Cup is over, there aren't really a lot of global stars that these casual fans were introduced to this summer that are even playing in the MLS. When I think of the possible breakout viral star when it comes to casual fans of the game, I would point to Erling Haaland, both because of what he was able to do on the field this summer, but also what he was able to do off the field on social media and in various capacities where he wasn't actually playing the game. Erling Haaland plays in the Premier League. I would actually argue that if I were talking to a casual fan and they said to me, K-Bex, I do want to get into soccer, the club level, after this World Cup, where do I turn to find the best product? I would point them towards the Premier League, not towards the MLS, even if they were in the United States. That's what I did about 12 years ago after the 2014 World Cup, and it ended up turning me into a pretty big fan of the game. If you're somebody who wants to support your local team in the MLS, by all means, go do it. Nobody is stopping you from doing so. It is a good product. It's not arguable anymore. It's a top 10 league in the world. So there is good soccer that's being played in the United States at the club level. But in the end, the stars that you saw this summer, the stars that you saw on the United States team this summer, by and large, don't play in the league. And so when I heard complaining that the MLS didn't do enough to capitalize on the World Cup being in the United States this summer, having just a couple of ad spaces in the semifinal games, I actually think that they did their homework on this and they understood that the growth isn't necessarily going to come from having this World Cup in the country, but it's going to come from people trying the sport out and then going to the top levels of the game, which ultimately exists elsewhere at this point, and then circling back to the MLS if they do, in fact, get involved to the point that they want to watch soccer outside of the best in the world. So the MLS doesn't really have to do anything at this point. It's a wait and let them come back to you situation. Talking about wait and come back to you situation, another thing that I heard a lot of complaining about this week was the MLB's Home Run Derby being broadcast on Netflix. And we've talked about this on the podcast earlier this year when we did our MLB preview, and I am not a hater in terms of Netflix hosting live sports. I'm not a hater in terms of the MLB turning to Netflix, especially for an event like the Home Run Derby. The Home Run Derby is, by and large, the best all-star festivity that exists in American pro sports. It's not even close. At this point, the second place contender in that category would be the NBA's slam dunk contest, which has really taken a hit over the years because, number one, the players don't want to necessarily take part in it. And number two, the thing that the slam dunk contest requires is an amount of creativity that becomes more and more difficult to find the longer that the competition goes on. The Home Run Derby does not have that challenge because it's actually the most simple form of entertainment in the game. Hit the ball long. It's also perhaps one of the most interesting things that happens as part of a real Major League Baseball game. Whereas slam dunks, by and large today, are not as prevalent as they were 30 years ago. So the MLB actually, I think, did a good thing by putting this on Netflix because the people that are baseball fans and wanted to find this game were going to find a way to do so. The people that may not have had any interest in watching this, but scrolled to Netflix and fired that up on Monday evening, had an opportunity that they wouldn't have otherwise to watch something new. And I think that was, in essence, along with the fact that Netflix is paying out the nose to get this content as far as live sports is concerned, what MLB was looking to do was looking to open up the game to potential new viewers. And the Home Run Derby is a great opportunity to do this because it isn't a real game. It's not a playoff game. I took issue with what the NBA did this spring as far as putting their playoff games on a network like Amazon Prime. Now, the numbers suggest that I may have been incorrect in my assessment of whether that was a good idea or not. But in the end, it still brought up the same issue, which is that fans of the NBA and casual viewers alike had trouble finding the games when they were on that particular platform. And that's a problem when it's the biggest event that the sport offers, which is the playoffs. In the case of the home run derby, it's honestly no harm, no foul. If the results aren't very good from a viewership perspective, that's really more Netflix's problem than it is the MLB's. Now, this is not a novel take by any means. I think a lot of people have made this in the past, but I actually think that professional American sports could go without all-star games entirely. And I think MLB would actually be in the best position to do so at this point because the home run derby is such a strong product compared to all of the other all-star game festivities and all-star games themselves. All-star games at their very core were established not only to give an opportunity to celebrate the game, but it was also an opportunity to bring all of the best players in the game together under one roof at a time when the possibility to watch all of the best players throughout a particular league at any given time, thanks to streaming, was not a possibility. At this point, the reality of why all-star games were important at one time to sports development has come and gone. And so I think that when you look at these games, and the MLB All-Star game is included in this categorization, there really is no true value for having these games anymore outside of the players getting paid a bonus if they happen to make it. So the solution to that, pretty easy, is still have an all-star team, name that team, pay the players accordingly, and then keep the home run derby as the main focal point of the mid-season break. I don't think we need the All-Star game anymore. I personally didn't even watch the MLB All-Star game this week, but I did watch the home run derby. And I have to say, I was very, very happy to see the ending where the Philadelphia fans were booing Jordan Walker as he got nearer and nearer Kyle Schwarber's total in the final. And in the end, the crowd went silent when Walker ended up hitting his 12th home run, which gave him the home run derby crown. You can't manufacture that type of true interest, and this is the only event as far as festivities for an all-star game are concerned that are anywhere close to providing that amount of true interest in who wins and the event itself. So like I said, pretty short episode here. We have gotten through 2 of the 3 topics that we're going to cover on this week's episode, but we do have one more to cover, and it is thanks to a mailbag question. This one comes from our buddy Trent, who I think has been with us before. He says, LeBron James. K-Bex, where is LeBron heading in free agency? Cavs fans are clamoring about the rumors, but are staying cautious to not get their hopes up too high. Thoughts? Now, this one was sent a couple of weeks ago by Trent. Thanks, Trent, for hanging on with us while we had an opportunity to put this episode together and reach your question. I'm going to answer this based purely on my opinion about what he should do, not what I think he will do. Because in the end, there are people that are much closer to LeBron James and the inner workings of what's going on, both with himself and with the teams that he is considering, than I do. And they don't know. Brian Windhorst has no idea what's going on. Shams Charania has no idea what's going on as far as where LeBron James is actually going to end up. There's been names as far-fetched as the Miami Heat, and there's been things as realistic as coming back to Cleveland, going to Golden State to team up with Steph Curry, or ending up with the Philadelphia 76ers to see if LeBron, in his ripe old age of early 40s, can finally take the 76ers to the promised land. In the end, what I think LeBron should do, Trent, is he should play in a place where he is having fun playing the game. I think LeBron, like many of the best that have ever played any sport, are having the most fun when they are competing and when they feel like they can win a title. But at the same time, that mentality is innately a part of what they do. And so wherever LeBron ends up, assuming that he does play next season, he's going to think he has a chance to win. Why he would decide to choose a landing spot like Philadelphia or go back to Miami, I really don't know. Those are the types of details that I'm going to let the professionals sort out if they want to talk about it at length. But what I think LeBron should do is he should play either with people that he feels like he's going to have the best time playing with, in which case I think Golden State is a possible and meaningful landing spot for him. But I do think that ending up in Cleveland would also make a lot of sense as well, and maybe make the most sense, because nowhere in the NBA is there more of an affection for the guy than in Cleveland. And they've done a lot to stick by him as he's made his way around the league in his various areas, and actually, to some extent, ripped the hearts out of those fans who have ultimately come back to support him time and time again. It is interesting that we're having a potential third meetup with the local Cleveland fans for the kid from Akron. And you would not find that with very many situations in sports. In fact, I think most of them probably would have had a hard time with LeBron coming back in 2015, given everything that they had been through with the first decision. And the fact that, once again, Cleveland fans are, for the most part, welcoming the potential of LeBron coming back with open arms is pretty much all you need, in my opinion, to suggest that if you're looking to make the biggest impact on the league, on your legacy as a whole, and frankly, your potential to get back to an NBA Finals, Cleveland would be the spot to do that. So that's my thought, Trent. Hopefully that answers your question. I'm curious what you think as well. I'm curious what the rest of the listeners think as well, as far as where LeBron is going to end up. I know this is a topic now that at the time of recording has been going on for about 2 weeks, and it doesn't feel like we're any closer to the actual decision than we were when LeBron announced he was not going to be returning to Los Angeles after this past season. So we might be mulling this over for some period of time after this is published. And when he finally does make a decision, maybe we'll come back and we'll hit it again. But that is all that we have for this episode. As I said, it's a short one. Please let me know what your thoughts are on the length of the episode. Your thoughts are obviously very important to me. The fans and the listeners are everything to this show, and we do try to do as much as we can, both to have you coming back and to have you guys spreading the word about Conversations so that we continue to reach new ears as well. Some people would say that July, mid-July in particular, is a slow time in sports as we wait for American football to come back into the fold. But you are not looking hard enough if you think that there isn't much going on in sports. Obviously, with the World Cup Final this coming Sunday, we've got the Open Championship in PGA Tour action. Baseball is going to be back underway, and much, much more as well. So get out there and go check out whatever it is that interests you. And until next time, take it easy, Shuckers.